Continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Kevin Rojic is the Pittsburgh special agent in charge of the FBI, and he is writing point on this investigation into the failed assassination attempt of President Trump on Saturday, saying there is no identified motive. Investigators working tirelessly to attempt to identify what that motive was. At present, we have not identified an ideology associated with the subject, but I want to remind everyone we're still early in this investigation. That's true. You got to give it some time. I wonder how much value it is. You know, the media immediately goes to family for comment, immediately goes to, when you're a young man like he was, 20 years old, immediately goes to classmates. Here's one of the shooter's high school classmates talking about his observations as to the shooter's experience in high school.
He was bullied almost every day.
In what way? Can you explain?
I mean, he would sit alone at lunch. I mean, he was just an outcast, and you know how kids are nowadays, so they're going to see someone like that, and they're going to target him because they think it's funny or whatever, so it's the best way I can describe it. And it's honestly kind of sad. Like, I don't want to say this is what provoked it, but you never know.
Yeah. You said he was a loner?
Yeah. I want to say he was a loner more because he was quiet, but like he was just bullied. Like he was bullied so much.
This is high school.
Yeah.
What did they, do you remember at all what they said to him or called him?
No. He was just made fun of, I guess, for the way he dressed or his appearance.
And they said he'd wear a surgical mask and all that. But I'm so sick of that excuse. Like that they're trying to justify what he did because he was bullied in high school?
I don't think they're trying to justify it. I think they're trying to search for cause and effect, and I think it's a reach. But so are these other bits and pieces of information, registered as a Republican, donated to Act Blue. Okay, I mean, those are bits and pieces of information, but what do they really tell us about his mind, what he was thinking, what motivated him to commit these awful crimes? I don't know. That's why we talked to James Fitzgerald,
right.
Retired FBI agent, criminal profiler from the Unabomber case. He is now the co-host of the Cold Red podcast as well, which is on Spotify, Apple, and all the podcast platforms. Same ones I'm on with my Counterculture podcast. Cold Red is the podcast. James Fitzgerald, retired FBI special agent and criminal profiler. Jim, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, Dan and Amy, great to be back on the program.
So what do interviews, information like observations from classmates, like you just heard, what value are they in terms of the FBI trying to understand the events that led to the commission of an act like this?
Yeah, these public ones, like the clip you just played, that's the media going out and getting some information. The FBI will eventually be going out in teams and probably under the tutelage of some of my, people from my former behavioral analysis unit, supervising, setting up some of the Q&A or certainly the Q part, and basically doing what we call in the behavior world a psychological autopsy. And obviously the physical autopsy will be done in a morgue somewhere with a medical examiner. But this will be breaking down the shooters, and I never put names on the air of these people, but this will be breaking down the shooter's, mental condition, his overall background, attempting to determine some sort of philosophy or ideology why he chose to undertake these actions. And I heard a little bit about the bullied part. No one likes hearing someone's being bullied. I thought in recent times that's been made into such a taboo where, professional athletes will come to a school and they'll be alongside of a kid who was bullied, and that changes the whole, dynamic. If his classmates said it happened, I guess it did happen. But why then go out and attempt to shoot the presidential Republican candidate for presidency? Where does that part fit in? And that's where we just don't have that information yet. to paint a fuller picture of this shooter. We just don't. Bullied one thing, but what makes him go out and get a rifle and adopt some sort of pseudo commando warrior mentality, on a rooftop where a president is speaking? It just, so far the dots are not connecting, and we need more information to build this person's behavioral assessment.
Well, according to Fox News, they're trying to get into his cell phone, which is in Quantico, Virginia right now. What information do they hope to gain from that?
Oh, there could be lots of information out there, and of course, cell phones. It's your roadway to the entire world in terms of different sites that were being searched, and also his laptop or computer, whatever access he has to the internet. There will be a world of information in there. Although with the Las Vegas shooter, they never found, or at least never released anything. That's always bothered me, that case. I think we discussed it at least in bits and pieces in the past on this program, why there's like zero social media, zero anything on his computer regarding his motivation for shooting, 50, 60, 70 people in Las Vegas on that Sunday. So I'm hoping a younger guy. I've talked to younger people, including in my family. Is there anyone 20 years old who doesn't have a social media presence? And if not, medium level to high. And apparently all I've read so far is there's a site or a social media site called Discord, which I've never heard of, with, minimal information on it, according to the CEO or whoever runs the site. And of course the FBI will want that. So anything they can get into from this phone, I'm not sure how easy it'll be to get into the phone nowadays, but they're going to try. And it could be a wealth of information, or it could be just trickle of information. We may not know too much more about this guy's ideology and his rationale for trying to take out former President Trump on Saturday night.
Mike Benz is a former cybersecurity guy at the State Department during the Trump administration. He tweeted out in response to the statements that the special agent in charge in Pittsburgh made. I'm quoting him. They're wiping the shooter's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and X accounts so he can't deduce his posting history, his manifesto, most importantly, whom he was followed by, and communicated with in the months and days ahead of the shooting. And he goes on to say that the crowd is the best investigator. They're blocking us from the crime scene. What about that? Because we've had these controversies in mass shootings where the FBI gathers everything but sort of shuts down any outside scrutiny, doesn't, as you were just talking about Vegas, doesn't disclose whatever it is they may have culled together. And the whole thing leaves people feeling very unsatisfied with the effort. And so why not allow for whatever social media is out there, for example, by this guy or about this guy, to be public domain?
Sure, Dan, and I was on Fox News, Laura Ingraham show a year and a half or so ago with the Nashville shooter. I should put the manifesto out there now. I did it on my Cold Red podcast. There's no reason to keep that. You can take out names and addresses of potential victims, those things, but we as the public deserve to know why these people are shooting up schools, concert venues, and certainly trying to take out presidential candidates. We need to know so we can look for the next guy and or woman, conceivably, and what is their mindset. If this guy's information is put out, there may be some other parents down the line said, "Oh, my son is writing or talking the same way, and he wants me to buy him, a long rifle." And geez, we've never had an interest in that before. And these are things we as the public need to know. I argued with people. It was almost like the movie 12 Angry Men in the Unabomb case. Publish the manifesto. Publish it. No. We'll get other nuts out there, and people will follow him. Now, that was an ongoing investigation. I get it. Part of the reason to publish it was to get the Unabomber identified. But this is after the fact. We know who the shooter is here, but we still, as a public, have a right to know this stuff. Trying to defund police, take guns from us. If they're going to try to do that, they should also then counter that with, all right, well, we're going to give you more information how to look for these type of people who could perform these same sort of deadly acts down the line. I mean, it's a scary thought, and I'm hoping my former colleagues, it's like a whole different generation now there than when I was still working about 17 years ago. But I'm hoping they carry over the teaching points that we gave them, that, the public can help solve cases and it can help prevent cases down the line too. And this kind of information has to be put out there.
What's your reaction? I mean, I know this isn't specifically your venue, but as a longtime federal law enforcement officer, you have to have some perspective on the security lapse there that would allow that individual to gain the elevated position he gained and commit the act that he committed.
It is unforgivable. It is unfathomable that that roof was allowed to be left unguarded with some kind of a perimeter around it. It is unprecedented as far as I know, or if it's happened before, we've been lucky and no one's climbed to the roof. We got to remember, this isn't Carlos the Jackal that tried to take out Donald Trump, famous European, hitman over a few decades. This is a 20-year-old kid who, and I'm still not sure how much counter surveillance he did, how many, pre-op surveillances he undertook before the shooting itself. Or just happened to have the gun in the car, pulled down the street. Hey, that roof's empty. I'm going to climb up there and shoot the next president. And that's what happened. So we don't know that yet. He was probably out there days before. But the Secret Service, I give credit to the agents who surrounded Trump once it happened, and certainly the sniper team that took out this person. But boy, it was a big, big, big mistake of indescribable dimensions and categories that they missed this roof. Heads a better role figuratively here. I can't imagine the director keeping her job. I can't imagine whoever the people were, including some state police people who were part of that team, who somehow didn't. I want to give kudos. We almost had an officer Tippett. Remember the JFK assassination? A Dallas police, a lot of forgetting, a Dallas police officer was killed by Lee Harvey Oswald. Mm-hmm. And we had a local officer that the crowd kept saying, hey, there's this person on the roof with a gun. He stands on the shoulder of another officer. The person turns the weapon and points it at him. He falls down. That officer could have been killed right there. If nothing else, that officer may have provided some valuable seconds, and the shooter had to get off his shot really quick and got away with it. So, but he didn't get the kill shot that he was looking for. And talk about the grace of God and miracles. And someone up there likes me. The fact that Donald Trump just happened to turn his head when he did, and it could have been a very ugly scene. We would not be seeing that video except in the dark corners of the internet if that was the hit that the shooter wanted. So I'm not sure what that means on a metaphysical sense, but luckily Donald Trump is still with us.
Yeah, but still an innocent bystander, Corey Compatore, who is a firefighter, Marine, father of two. I mean, he died shielding his family.
Absolutely. Two other people also are seriously injured. I'm not, of course, not downplaying that. And so whether that was part of whether this person would have kept shooting into the crowd because he hates everything about what the popularity of Donald Trump represents, I don't know. We still have to dig more into that. It's amazing. Nothing else comes out about this guy except within hours. He happens to be registered Republican.
I know.
Yeah,
right. I know those things aren't too hard to look up when county voting lists, whatever. But that's like the only thing that comes out. We're still waiting to hear about the Nashville shooter and others in the past that their background may be sort of the polar opposite of someone. But that registered Republican doesn't mean anything. His parents could have been that. It just he might want to vote in primaries just against the popular candidate. And of course, he contributed to some sort of a left-wing site, but again, not too much of a footprint there. So a lot more to come out in the psychological autopsy, and a sad event. And I just hope the Secret Service has learned from this, and all of our candidates can be safer in the future.
The question we've been asking all morning is the rules of engagement. I mean, the reporting is that the rules of engagement for Secret Service is that counter snipers can't fire until they're fired upon. Could that possibly be true? It seems, I mean, there's some suggestion that it is true that you have to get the counter sniper that maybe have had eyes on the shooter was waiting for an investigative team to give him the green light to take out the threat. And I mean, could that possibly be true if you're a counter sniper and you see that in that context and you have to wait for the go sign or you have to wait for the shooter to fire before you can neutralize?
Yeah, I would have to review their SOP, standard operating procedures, and their protocols and how that's set up. But I would think in any sort of a situation, tactical, quasi-military like that, there is some autonomy on the part of the shooters. It's amazing how within one or two shots coming out, this counter sniper happened to have a visual field, and he had the guy right in his sights, and several shots he's taken out. Let me give you a quick anecdote. 2003 is when the FBI laboratory moved from Washington, D.C. to Quantico, Virginia. I was a profiler working at the academy then, and George W. Bush was coming to christen or open the laboratory. And I said, oh, sure, let's. And we had a chance to go. I've never seen a live living president before up to that date. Well, let me go, part of the crowd. And we were told in advance the Secret Service is running it, and we had to leave our guns behind. So here we are. I'm an FBI supervisory special agent on the grounds of the FBI Academy. I wasn't authorized to bring a gun into the place. I get in there. Every single building had a sniper on it, Secret Service. Low buildings, high buildings, parking garages on top of the new lab itself. And I said, all right, well, this is the price I pay. And it was a nice opening. Bush gave a nice speech, whatever. So I can't help but think back to that event, how tightly guarded it was at the FBI Academy.
Right. And
here we are in a field in Butler, Pennsylvania, and a roof, 1.5 football fields away is left wide open with in direct line of sight. Somebody screwed up big time, and either I'm not sure being terminated is enough. Maybe even criminal charges.
That's
but
yeah, that really
on that to be determined.
That puts an exclamation point on it, doesn't it? Jim Fitzgerald, retired FBI special agent, criminal profiler from the Unabomber case. Now he's the co-host of the Cold Red podcast on Spotify, Apple, all your favorite podcast platforms. Jim Fitzgerald, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Amy, take care.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560.